Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Kala Chanji Radha Kala Chanji Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Radha Kalachandji ki jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Yes, not many mics in a Hare Krishna temple can withstand the test of time. ISKCON Leela. I'm supposed to speak from 7th canto, chapter number 7, text 29 to 38. I don't know if there's a way we can show that. Do you want me to? Oh, okay. Okay, let's do the Mangalacharana. Mangalacharana is very important. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes in the Adi Leela, chapter 1, says, say Mangalacharana hoy trivida prakar, vastu nirdesha ashirvad, ara namaskar. There are three principles. Vastu nirdesha ashirvad and namaskar. Without these three things, we cannot proceed in spiritual life. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Together. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So, good morning. Welcome to the daily Srimad Bhagavatam class here at ISKCON Dallas, Shri Radha Kalachandji Dham. This morning we are reading from Canto 7, Chapter 7, starting from text 29 till 38, and I was asked to speak from text 38. We have the verses on the board. Is there a mic by any chance? So let me begin with reading the translation for text 29, and then as the mic comes around, each one of us can take turns. So text 29. Of the different processes recommended for disentanglement from material life, the one personally explained and accepted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be considered all perfect. That process is the performance of duties by which love for the Supreme Lord develops.
Text 30-31. One must accept the bona fide spiritual master and render service unto him with great devotion and faith. Whatever one has in one's possession should be offered to the spiritual master. And in association of saintly persons and devotees, one should worship the Lord, hear the glories of the Lord with faith, glorify the transcendental qualities and activities of the Lord, always meditate on the Lord's lotus feet, and worship the deities of the Lord strictly according to the injunction of Shastras and Guru.
Text 32. One should always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his localized representation as the Paramatma, who is situated in the core of every living entity's heart. Thus, one should offer respect to every living entity according to that living entity's position or manifestation.
Text 33. By these activities, as mentioned above, one is able to cut down the influence of the enemies, namely lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and jealousy. And when thus situated, one can render service to the Lord. In this way, one surely attains the platform of loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
One who is situated in devotional service is certainly the controller of his senses, and thus he is a liberated person. When such a liberated person, the pure devotee, hears of the transcendental qualities and activities of the Lord's incarnations for the performance of various pastimes, his hair stands on end on his body, tears fall from his eyes, and in his spiritual realization, his voice falters. Sometimes he very openly dances, sometimes he sings loudly, and sometimes he cries. Thus he expresses his transcendental jubilation.
When a devotee becomes like a person haunted by a ghost, he laughs and very loudly chants about the qualities of the Lord. Sometimes he sits to perform meditation, and he offers respects to every living entity, considering him a devotee of the Lord. Constantly breathing very heavily, he becomes careless of social etiquette, and loudly chants like a madman, Hare Krishna, O my Lord, O Master of the universe.
Thank you. The devotee is then freed from all material contaminations because he constantly thinks of the Lord's pastimes and because his mind and body have been converted to spiritual qualities. Because of his intense devotional service, his ignorance, material consciousness, and all kinds of material desires are completely burnt to ashes. This is the stage at which one can achieve the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet.
The real problem of life is the repetition of birth and death, which is like a wheel rolling repeatedly up and down. This wheel, however, completely stops when one is in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, by the transcendental bliss realized from constant engagement in devotional service, one is completely liberated from material existence. All learned men know this. Therefore, my dear friends, O son of the Asuras, immediately begin meditating upon and worshipping the Supersoul within everyone's heart.
And this is the verse for today, text 38. So do we first do the Sanskrit and then the translation? How does it work? Okay. Koti prayaso surabalaka harer upasane sve hridi chidravatsata svasyatmana sakhyurasesha dehinam samanyata kim vishaya upapadanai kotis prayaso surabalaka harer upasane sve hridi chidravatsataha svasyatmana sakyurasesha dehinam samanyata kim vishayopapadanai koti prayaso surabalaka hare upasane svasyatmana samanyata kim vishayopapadanai koti prayaso surabalaka hare upasane sve hridi chidravatsata sasyatmana sakirasesha dehinam samanyata kim vishayopapadanai. We'll read the synonyms. Kaha, what? Ati prayasaha, difficult endeavor. Asura balakaha, O sons of demons. Hare, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Upasane, in discharging the devotional service. Sve, in one's own. Hridi, core of the heart. Chidravat, just like the space. Sataha, who always exists. Swasya, of oneself or of the living entity. Atmanaha, of the supersoul. Sakyuhu, of the well-wishing friend. Asesha, unlimited. Dehinam, of the embodied souls. Samanyataha, generally. Kim, what is the need? Vishaya upapadanai, with activities delivering the objects of the senses for sense enjoyment. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charana Aravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: My friends, son of the Asuras, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in His Supersoul feature always exists within the core of the hearts of all living entities. Indeed, He is the well-wisher and friend of all living entities, and there is no difficulty in worshipping the Lord. Why, then, should people not engage in His devotional service? Why are they so addicted to unnecessarily producing artificial paraphernalia for sense gratification? Purport: because the personality of Godhead is supreme, no one is equal to Him and no one is greater than Him. Nonetheless, if one is a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord is easily obtainable. The Lord is compared to the sky because the sky is vast, yet within the reach of all, not only of human beings but even of the animals. The Supreme Lord in His Paramatma feature exists as the best well-wisher and friend. As confirmed in the Vedas, Sayujyao Sakhyao, the Lord in a supersoul feature always stays in the heart along with the living entity. The Lord is so friendly to the living entity that He remains within the heart so that one can always contact Him without difficulty. One can do this simply by devotional service. Shravanam Kirtana Vishnu Smarana Pada Sevana. As soon as one hears of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna Kirtan, one immediately comes in touch with the Lord. A devotee immediately comes in touch with the Lord by any or all of the items of devotional service. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atma Nivedanam. Therefore, there is no difficulty in coming in contact with the Supreme Lord. Koti prayasaha. On the other hand, going to hell requires great endeavor. If one wants to go to hell by illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication, he must acquire so many things. For illicit sex, he must arrange for money for brothels. For meat eating, he must arrange for many slaughterhouses. For gambling, he must arrange for casinos and hotels. And for intoxication, he must open many breweries. Clearly, therefore, if one wants to go to hell, he must endeavor very much. But if he wants to return home back to Godhead, there is no difficult endeavor. To go back to Godhead, one may live alone anywhere in any condition and simply sit down, meditate upon the Supersoul, and chant and hear about the Lord. Thus, there is no difficulty in approaching the Lord. Andanta Gobir Vishatam Tamishram. Because of inability to control the senses, one must go through great endeavor to go to hell. But if one is sensible, he can very easily obtain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead because the Lord is always with him. By the simple method of Shravanam Kirtana Vishnu, the Lord is satisfied. Indeed, the Lord says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yo Me Bhaktya Prayachati Tadaham Bhaktyupaharitam Ashnami Prayatatmana. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit or water, I will accept it. Bhagavad Gita 9.26. One can meditate upon the Lord anywhere and everywhere. Thus, Prahlad Maharaj advised his friends, the sons of the demons, to take this path back home, back to Godhead without difficulty. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. What a fantastic purport. So, yesterday, our Drishta Prabhu, he was talking about how the goldsmith is able to recognize, the gold, even though it's within the soil, and he's able to remove, the gold extract. So, today in text 29, Prahlad Maharaj starts the conversation saying that there are many processes for disentangling from material life. But, there is one process which is explained by the Lord. And he says that by this process, one develops love for the Supreme Lord. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, at the beginning of the Purana, we see the sages, they asking many questions. And Suta Goswami, he tells, Dharma svanustita pumsa visvakshena katasuya notpadaye yadiratim shrama evahi kevalam. He tells that these activities that one performs for varnashrama are shrama evahi kevalam. If there is no notpadayet yadi ratim, that rati, that love for the Lord, if that is not evoked as following these processes, all these processes are a waste of time. And then he concludes, Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adokshaje ahituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. That the greatest of dharmas, paro dharmo, is yato bhaktir adokshaje. This one must worship adokshaja. So, and this worship should be ahaituki and apratihata. So, ahaituki means without any motivation, unmotivated. And apratihata, without interruption. Right? So, it is very important that we learn to practice this under the care of a spiritual master. And there is no need to be worried, because the Lord himself assures that he will take care of his devotee. And he will save the devotee from material bondage, which is a result of sinful activity. In here, Prahlad Maharaj, he also tells that one must learn to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. Srila Rupa Goswami, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he gives different principles to practice bhakti. But the first principle that he gives is Adav Guru Padashraya. One must learn to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. And if one does not learn to take shelter of that bona fide spiritual master, then, and if he tries to practice spiritual life, it will basically be a futile attempt. Srila Prabhupada, he often quotes this verse, Tarko pratishto shrutayo vibhinna nasham rishir yasya matam na bhinna dharmasya tattvam nihita guhaya mahajana yena gatastu panta. He says, Tarko pratishto shrutayo vibhinna. Tarka means logic. If you try to hear logic and try to understand the absolute truth, is vibhinna. There are so many different versions. And nasham rishir yasya matam na bhinna. And if you try to approach these rishis, the great scholars, intellectuals, Nasham rishir yasya matam vibhinna, even they have different opinions. So how do we understand? Dharmasya tattvam nihita guhaya mahajana yena gatastu panta. This dharma is guhaya. It is secretly kept. Where? In the heart of the spiritual master. And mahajana yena gatastu panta. And that is why one must learn to take shelter of the spiritual master, of a mahajan, and learn to serve him and learn to follow his instructions. So these principles of religion are extremely confidential, and unless and otherwise one learns to take shelter of a guru. So first thing is take shelter of a guru. Second thing is Krishna's Diksha Sikshanam. So one must take Diksha. Third is one must take instructions from the spiritual master, follow in his footsteps. Vishrambena Gurur Seva. Fourth is one must learn to serve the spiritual master. So like this, Rupa Goswami gives 64 items in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, right? So Prahlad Maharaj, he's teaching us in a few verses before that everything must be offered to the spiritual master as a matter of duty. And if you offer this with your heart and soul and not to gain any artificial prestige, then this offering or arpana will bestow the mercy of the spiritual master. And if you learn to live within the association of saintly devotees, and you learn to follow the proper Vaishnav Sadachar of devotional service, then by this process, slowly and slowly, the love for the Lord will start awakening. And we should see here that Prahlad Maharaj, he also teaches that one must learn to respect all the living entities as we practice devotional service according to their position or capacity. And this is another important aspect, because if you don't learn to respect the devotees, then we will never be able to understand. The Kanishta, he only respects the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master. But we see the Madhyam Adhikari, he will learn to respect every living entity, and according to their position, their spiritual capabilities and qualification, the Madhyam Adhikari, he will learn to offer different kinds of respect. Srila Rupa Goswami teaches us this in the Nectar of Instruction. He says, Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta Dikshasti chet pranatabhischa bhajatam isha Shrushrushaya sa bhajana vignana mananya manya Nindadi shunya hridamipshita sangalapya. So, Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta. That a person who is accepting Krishna, we learn to offer our respects, mentally. But then he says, Dikshasti chet pranatibhischa bhajantamisha. But if one has taken Diksha, then one must do pranati. One must offer our obeisances to that person. And then, Shushushaya bhajana vignanam ananya anya nindadi shunyam hridamipshita sangalabhya. That nindadi shunya, one must learn to take shelter of that person who has nindadi shunya. This propensity to criticize others, nindadi shunya, is become zero, right? So this is very important, that as we practice devotional service, one must learn to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and follow the processes. So Srila Prabhupada, he often quotes this statement by Prahlad Maharaj, Hari Sarveshu Bhuteshu, right? When we offer our respects to other living entities, it is because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Paramatma, he is present within their hearts, right? So we offer our respects, Hari Sarveshu Bhuteshu. But we should also understand that the living entity is not Hari. The living entity is Jivatma, right? So we have to understand this aspect, and we as practicing sadhakas, we must also learn to distinguish how to differentiate between the different people who are practicing spiritual life. So Prahlad Maharaj, in a few verses before, he tells that, once you start practicing, if you can maybe bring up this verse, it's text 34, if it is possible. Yes, Prabhu. Just right here, you can go a few clicks. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so here Prahlad Maharaj says, one who is situated in devotional service is certainly the controller of his senses, and thus he is a liberated person. When such a liberated person, the pure devotee, hears of the transcendental qualities of and activities of the Lord's incarnations for performance of various pastimes. His hair stands on end on his body. Tears fall from his eyes, and in his spiritual realization, his voice falters. Sometimes he very openly dances, sometimes he sings loudly, and sometimes he cries. Thus he expresses his transcendental jubilation. So, this is a very, very famous principle that what happens as one practices devotional service. We see that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this there's a similar conversation that happened when Lord Chaitanya, he was in Banaras or Kashi. What was the name of that very famous scholar? Prakashananda Saraswati. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his conversation with Prakashananda Saraswati, he describes this. So Chaitanya Prakashananda Saraswati asks, you are a sannyasi, and instead of studying Vedanta and engaging in meditation, you are engaged in Sankirtan. What kind of sannyasi are you? You are engaging in these, low-class activities instead of engaging in study of the Shrutis and Dhyana. What is this? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he tells, my dear sir, my spiritual master told me that I am a great fool. I really don't understand anything. I am not qualified. So simply he has given me this chanting of this mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I started chanting this mantra. And then after some time, I realized that, I am unable to control myself. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he goes to his spiritual master and he tells him, Guru Maharaj, Ishwarapuri is the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya. He tells him, what kind of mantra have you given me? I have become crazy. I don't understand what is day or what is night. Is this the right mantra? Am I supposed to behave like this? And then Ishwarapuri, he becomes so happy when he hears this and he blesses. And, he tells him, and he quotes this one famous verse from the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where this is a verse which is quoted by Narada Muni to Vasudev, the father of Krishna. And he quotes this repeatedly again and again. Evam vritasva priyanama kirtya jata nurago drita chitta uchay hasati ati roditi rauti gayati unmadavan rityati loka bahya. So this verse is quoted by Narada Muni to Vasudev, even though Vasudeva was the father of the Supreme Lord and he was a pure devotee, but just to teach the living entities what it is, what is real dharma, and what are the consequences of practicing real dharma, what are the outcomes of practicing real dharma. Narad Muni is teaching. So he says, Evam vritasva priya nama kirtya. If you take a vrata, that every day I am going to chant priya nama kirtya, the holy names of the Lord. Jata anurago drita chitta uchay. Your chitta becomes completely captured. And hasati, you start laughing. Raudati, rauti, sometimes you start crying, sometimes you are shouting. Uchay, with great fervor. Unmadavan rityati lokabaya. And sometimes you'll become mad. So this is the symptom of practicing, of chanting Hare Krishna. And I hope by the mercy of the devotees one day I can also become a madman like this. So, Prahlad Maharaj, he tells that when one chants the holy name, he becomes freed from all kinds of material contamination. And as a result, he becomes completely attracted by all the spiritual qualities of the Lord. And because of his intensity of devotional service, the knots within the heart are cut, and he is able to completely focus on the Supreme Lord. Sutta Goswami in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he also describes of this phenomena. He tells, Yad anadhyasina santo karma granti nibandhana chindanti kovidastasya gona kuryat kataratim. So, by asina means a sword. Yad anudhyasina santo karma granti nibandhanat. By practicing of devotional service, one is able to cut the knots by the sword of knowledge within the heart. And so we have to understand that this real problems of life is repeated birth and death. And unless and otherwise we can experience so until and unless one can realize transcendental happiness, param drishtva nivartate, by constantly engaging in devotional service, one cannot be liberated from material existence. In the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he teaches us about this most confidential knowledge. He tells, Rajavidya, Rajaguhyam, Pavitram, Idamuttamam, Pratyakshaavagamam, Dharmyam, Susukam, Kartum Avyayam. He says, this knowledge is Rajavidya, it's the king of all knowledge. And Rajaguhyam, it is the secret of all secrets. Pavitram, it is most pure. Idam Uttamam, it is the highest. And Pratyakshaavagamam, Dharmyam, you can pratyaksha, you can personally see it, you can personally experience it, you can personally feel it. And susukam kartum avyayam. Susukam kartum. You can do this in a very, very happy state. There is, unlike Ashtanga, unlike Dhyana, unlike Karma, there is no, you have to follow so many rules and regulations and so many things. But this process given to us by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Kevala Ananda Kanda. The yogis, they try to practice meditation on Brahmanda. Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he gives a very famous verse quoting the Puranas. He says that Brahmanando bhaved esha chet pararda gunikrata naiti bhakti sukam bodhe paramanu tulamapi. That if you take the happiness and bliss of meditating on Brahmananda and you multiply that by 100 trillion times. I don't know how many zeros are there in there. Maybe one of you mathematicians can help me. 100 trillion times. Not million, not a billion, a trillion. 100 such trillion times. Right? It would still not be equal to an atomic portion of the bliss that one feels in pure devotional service. That is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give us. So, unfortunately, if we go to verse 38, I think that is the verse that we are supposed to talk today. Sorry, I got a bit distracted. Here, Prahlad Maharaj, he's imploring his friends, "O my friends, sons of the Asuras, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his super soul feature always exists within the cores of the hearts of the living entities. Indeed, he is the well-wisher and friend of all living entities, and there is no difficulty in worshipping the Lord. Why, then, should people not engage in his devotional service? Why are they so addicted to unnecessarily producing artificial paraphernalia for sense gratification?" So, here the principle is being taught that Prahlad Maharaj is telling that Krishna, he is your best friend, right? You know, there is generally, what is that verse in the last verse of the 5th chapter? The peace formula. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gnatva mam shantim richati. So Krishna is saying, I am suhrud, I am your best friend. So there is mitra, there is bandhu, and there is suhrud, right? So Krishna, he's saying, I am suhrud, your best friend for all living entities. You know, if you have a disagreement sometimes with anyone, right? I'm sure, I don't know if any of you have had disagreements, and sometimes even the best friends, they separate because they have disagreements, correct? It's like, I don't even want to talk to you. Sometimes, even within own families, sometimes this happens, right? Oh, I don't want to see your face again. But look at Krishna. Since time immemorial, the living entity has been continuously disagreeing with the Lord, continuously doing things against his wishes, his best friend. And the Lord is saying, it's okay, I will not leave you. I will stay with you. I will help you so that you can become happy. The living entity says, I don't want you, I want to enjoy. Says, even that I will facilitate. This material world is there. But you will not be happy, my dear. And he is waiting, he is sitting as the super soul in the heart. When is this jiva going to turn towards me? When will he become antarmukhi? Right? He is right now looking outside. So, the process given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. This is such a wonderful process that there is no difficulty in coming in contact with the Supreme Lord with any of these processes. Rupa Goswami says that even if you get perfection in one process, out of these 9 processes, you attain the perfection of human life. But here we see that, and Krishna has made himself so easy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, even if you don't surrender, that's fine. I'm going to give you pure love. Just accept what I'm trying to give you. Right? Even if you are not qualified, no problem. So, and this is such an easy process. You know, Shrutakirti Prabhu, there is a book that he writes. It's called, What is the Difficulty? Right? So, but here, Prahlad Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada, they implore in the purport that if you have to practice meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, there is so much of tapasya you have to go through. And it is so important that, we learn to stay away from these 4 sinful activities. You know, there are 4 pillars of religion: austerity, cleanliness, mercifulness, and truthfulness. Austerity is basically tapa. And when you engage in intoxication, austerity is gone. Cleanliness is saucham. When you engage in illicit sex, cleanliness is gone. Mercifulness, daya. This is, and if you engage in meat eating, then this compassion, daya, that is gone. And the last one, which is satyam or truthfulness. And that is the only portion of small portion still remaining in Kali Yuga, and that is destroyed by gambling. So, it's a very, very difficult situation that we are in. But the Lord has made it so easy. Srila Prabhupada, he's given us this society called the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Consciousness means to remember. So the process of Shravanam and Kirtanam is to constantly remember, right? Smaranam. And consciousness means to remember, to be conscious of Krishna. So if we don't remember Krishna, then it will become very difficult in approaching the Lord. So this is very, very important, that the Lord is satisfied by simple processes of Shravanam and Kirtanam. And you know, even in the Bhagavad Gita, he tells that if you offer with love, I will accept it. So the problem that we are not able to do that is because we have these material conditionings within our heart that prevent us from doing. Srila Rupa Goswami, he teaches us in the Nectar of Instruction, he says, Syat Krishna Nama Charitadi Sitapya Vidya Pitto Patapta Narasya Rochikanu Kintva Daradanu Dinam Kalusaiva Jushta Swadvi Kramat Tadgati Mulahantri. So he said, Syat Krishna Nama Charitadi Sitapi Avidya. So this holy name of Krishna, Krishna Nama Charitadi Sita. Sita means very pleasing, but very pleasing to the tongue. The holy name of Krishna is very pleasing to the tongue. But Sita, Api Avidya Pitta, Pitta, like Kappa Pitta Vasa, right? Right? This avidya, which is like ignorance, is like that pitta which is lying on the tongue. Just like in the morning when we clean our tongue, we will see so many things coming out, like this pitta, right? So this ignorance is like that, it's covering our senses, it's covering our intelligence, it's covering our false ego. And so Rupa Goswami says, Kintva darad anudinam kalu saiva jushta. But every day, if you take this medicine of Krishna Nama, Swadvi Kramat Tadgata Mulahantri, from the root, it is going to destroy. And what happens when it is destroyed from the root? Then one will start relishing the holy name of the Lord. So this is what Prahlad Maharaj has come to give us. So if we learn to take the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, if we follow the instructions of the bona fide spiritual master, if we accept this process with our heart without any pretension, then slowly one day we can also become a madman in chanting the holy name of Krishna. So it's 8:25. I think I'm supposed to stop at what time? I don't know. What time should I stop? 8. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so maybe we can... okay, so maybe if anyone has any questions, comments, corrections.
Hare Krishna? Yeah. I have to run in a second, but I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the way you covered all the points, like many verses and purports, and I can see that you studied all of them and you brought out the points from all the different purports and you integrated it all together really nicely and added a lot of nice Sanskrit verses and references and explanations. So it was an ecstatic section of verses and you presented it very nicely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so...
I have a question. You mentioned, thank you for a very nice class, and I could absorb just very little of it. But it was very nice. You were mentioning Mitra, Bandhu and Suhrit. So Mitra, I understand, is friend. Suhrit is like Krishna, he's
your well-wisher.
And Bandhu, I understand, is relative, but...
Bandhu is also like a friend.
So how do you, what are the qualities that are, how does, from Mitra, what are the qualities in Bandhu that are not in Mitra, or what are the qualities in Suhrit that are not in Bandhu, where you can have this gradation?
So Bandhu, it's like, acquaintance. You can say, oh, I know this person, I know where he lives, I know him, Like, yeah, we know, but mitra is, there is a little bit of a sharing, there is a little bit deeper connection, and suhrit is the well-wisher. Like Srila Prabhupada, he would always say, I'm your eternal well-wisher. So the Lord is suhrit. He is our well-wisher. Irrespective of what is our condition, the Lord always, He is always our well-wisher, because He wants to make sure that as our well-wisher, that we do what is most important, that we become happy. So, I don't know if that answered that question.
Yeah, but it is Mitra, then Bandhu, then Suhrit?
Bandhu, Mitra, Suhrit.
So, okay, because that's
Yes.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, no problem.
Hare Krishna. Great class, Prabhuji. I first wanted to apologize because I didn't even mention to you the time. So I apologize for that. I should have let you know about the time. So it's not even your fault at all. Please forgive me.
No, it's okay.
I really appreciate towards the end of the class, you're mentioning the easy process. And Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport this easy process, And I'm remembering Srila Prabhupada says this is a simple process for the simple-hearted, right? And in the purport, he's just nailing it. Like, he's like, sometimes we get so caught up as devotees, like doing this, like the rules and regulations that you were talking about in the first, like, we get caught up in that. And then Srila Prabhupada gives us a purport like, oh, by the way, Krishna's in your heart. You just turn to him and do service. And therefore, it's so easy. Even the animals have Krishna in his heart, their heart and stuff. You just, contact the Supreme Person in your heart and do some service. And,
yes,
it's just so sweet, It's really a relief sometimes when we get caught up in sometimes, at least I've seen quite often a characteristic of devotees is because we can see we have this high standard that we're seeing in such wonderful devotees, right? That's all around us. That we can often be hard on ourselves because we're not reaching to that platform,
Yes.
And so you can beat yourself up, this and that, and then Srila Prabhupada gives you a purport like this. You're like, oh, okay. you know?
Don't worry.
Yeah, like, hey.
It's Kevala Ananda Kanda. Yeah, so it reminded me of a conversation between Lord Brahma and Krishna. This comes in the Brahma Samhita as you were talking. Brahma, he glorifies Krishna with the prayers of the Brahma Samhita, right? He quotes all these beautiful glorifications. And then Krishna, he summarizes everything. He tells him in five verses. And there is one verse where Krishna says, Pramanaistat sadacharais tadabhyaser nirantaram bodhayan atmanatmanam bhaktimam api uttamam labet. So Krishna, he summarizes the entire thing in just 5 verses. So he says, Pramanais, that if you follow Shastra, tad sadacharais, if you have sadachar, good behavior, tad abhyaser, and you practice nirantaram constantly, and bodhayan atmanatmaman, that, and if you discuss amongst the devotees, bhaktimam api uttamam labet, that this highest treasure is easily obtainable, right? So one doesn't need to aspire to become a great devotee, right? One must learn to practice according to one's adhikar. And by doing so, one becomes happy and satisfied. And by doing that, tushti pushti kshudapayo anugasham, as it's mentioned in the 11th canto, bhaktir pareshanu bhava viraktir anyatatrisha eshkala prapadyamanasya yatashu tushti pushti kshudapayo anugasham. That by the chanting of the holy name, by the practice of devotional service, one becomes tushti, happy, pushti, one nourished, and kshudapayo anugasham, and one becomes completely saturated. So everyone has a different adhikar. Most important thing is we must learn to encourage each other in the practice of devotional service, and most importantly, one must learn to be sincere. It is not how many rounds you do, but how sincerely can we call out to Krishna, right? It is not how great we are and how much knowledge we have, but how much we can actually apply that knowledge for the pleasure of the Lord. It is not how expert we are in talking, but how much can we touch the hearts of the devotees so that they can practice Krishna consciousness. So these things are very important as we learn to, and this is what the Lord is saying, tat sadacharais, right? And tad abhyaser nirantaram. So thank you very much, Prabhu. That's an excellent point you praised. I think it's 8:33, way beyond my time limit. So 3 minutes, okay. Thank you very much. Grantraj, Srimad.